you're going to Singapore. So if we just look at the atmosphere in the country, one asks the question, how hygienic is it?
Let me first of all
it's New Year. Just
let me first of all start by telling Kenyans Happy New Year. I'm glad we made it here. Considering the amount of shakings that this country is going through, there is a possibility. There's a possibility. I thought that we would never get to 2026, but I'm glad that we made it here. Let me start from there, from a positive place. And I'm glad that majority of us made it here in one piece. And unfortunately, some of us did not make it, and some under very strange circumstances. But I'm glad that some of us actually managed to get here. I'm also happy to see that we have still carried some of the fighting energy that we needed to carry. Is it hygienic? It is not. There's zero hygiene. Do we want hygiene? Yes, but after this shaking. And this is why I say after this shaking. This country has been functioning with political parties that are fluid. Even despite passing legislation and agreeing that we want to bring order into our political party system, we have continued to see political parties that are fluid. We have continued to see an office of the registrar that is constantly ruled by the political parties instead of the registrar having power over political parties, because our politicians decided that they're never going to cede the power to control where they sit during the elections. And for this reason, there are a number of things that are now beginning to show up. Now, number one, that those lines that are normally crossed just before the elections cause a lot of messes and deceive Kenyans into voting for things they would otherwise not vote for. Number two is that people come together not because of ideology. Because when you see the fight that is between ODM, Jubilee, and all those, nobody has spoken about the things that were in the manifestos. It is about people who was eating, how much someone ate, who was not available to make sure that the other person will get an opportunity to eat properly. And so, for me, that is showing features that need to be seen by Kenyans so that we can understand the mess in our political party situation. A lot has changed over time for our political party systems, to the point that we've gotten to a place where there are certain rules you need to comply with before your political party is actually called a properly registered political party or fully registered political party. And I'm happy about those changes. I'm also extremely pleased with the women who have held the positions of registrar, because they have worked under extreme pressure to get some of that work. I truly respect them for having stood the test and managed to deliver us to where we are. The third thing then is political party financing. I've mentioned this thing in this room before. I have actually spoken about the fact that we must prepare ourselves to have a conversation about political party financing. We must have a conversation about campaign financing, so that we stop having these conversations about, for the record, I celebrate our former president. I love him from the bottom of my heart. But we stop having conversations about an individual funding a political party at the tune of 500 million. And the party that receives the funding not even being able to account for those resources. There's something fundamentally wrong with 500 million getting into a campaign process and it is not declared. There is something equally wrong with that kind of money getting into a campaign process. It is not accounted for, and people can actually open their mouths to tell of the man who invested those resources.
It's pocket change.
When I tell you there's no hygiene, even if it's pocket change, this is what I mean when people actually just don't respect other people's money. This is what I mean when people, and the question I'm asking myself is, this is 500 million, but there's the ODM member who probably bought their membership for 20 bob. I don't know what is the cheapest membership now, and they are part of the contributors. Can we trust that the resources they give are treated with respect? If 500M, can we handle that carelessly?
You know, we talk about a political situation in the country, and there is a peace. There is things that are moving forward easily. You know, and one asks, we're coming also from a point where we remember the demonstrations that the country saw. We know officers were sent on the streets, people were clobbered, some were abducted, and there is, since then, demonstrations have gone down. So are we saying that the country, there is peace? Are we saying that finally Kenyans understand the situation, or are we just trading on sand?
I would encourage everyone not to be deceived by the silence in this country. And I would truly encourage everyone not to be deceived
What
by
is brewing?
the silence amongst the masses. And for me, it's because there's an expression in Swahili. You love proverbs in this studio.
Yes.
They say ukimwona kobe amelala yatunga masharti, that when the tortoise is asleep, rest assured, even when they look like they're sleeping, they are planning their next move. So I wouldn't ask anyone to decide that they are done. And it's strange that you're asking me this question, because early this morning as I was preparing to come here, one of the things I thought about was the fact that after the last election, Baba tried to mobilize protesters. And they were beaten to a pulp. Some of them were shot dead. As a matter of fact, it was a declaration that came out of the mouth of the president to say that he now knows he's going to have a very peaceful presidency. He is out to serve Kenyans. The shock that arrived in this country a few months later, none of us could see coming, number one. But number two, and most important, none of us had prepared the tools to be able to deal with. So we fumbled for a long time before we could figure out what to do with the Gen Z protests. And so that is why I'm saying, for now, nobody should rest on their laurels. But then the other litmus test that I want everybody to do, as the rest of Kenyans are quiet, please check the behavior of their representatives. My number one and favorite of them all is the former deputy president, Rigiji. For as long as he's not silent, rest assured that this country is not at peace. As a matter of fact, rest assured that nothing has been resolved. So for me, one of the litmus tests I'm going to give you, check if that man is still speaking, and I pray that he speaks until 2027. Then there's something going on in this country. The second group of people I want you to look at very closely is ODM. ODM, because this is a home where not one of the parents, I think this parent was the father and the mother. And now that he's gone, I mean, there are quite some upheavals in the party. The last bonds look like they are more prepared. The party look like it was built to beg. I heard someone saying that the party that has been called the biggest party in East and Southern Africa,
this side of Sahara,
is about to be diminished because some people have decided to be small-minded in the party. I also would like you to take the silence, would I call it silence, the unease in the government side as an announcement that they are not resting. They are not resting because the death of Baba last year actually threw them a curveball. Number two, all the scenarios they had set for the death of Baba have actually failed them. All of them. I can tell you to take this to the bank that anything they had planned to see happening after Baba's death is not coming the way they had planned for it. So they're a bit shaken. They're a bit unsure of what steps or what actions would actually determine a win for them. And unfortunately, because of the trouble in Baba's camp, they are being presented with too many choices. Now, too many choices are bad. And no choice is also bad. But too many choices are even more dangerous than no choice. Because when you don't have any choice, you have to think about the only thing that you need.
The party constitution is clear.
Clear.
If we want a presidential candidate, the party is clear.
Clear, you know. And so they are being presented with very many options. The number of people who have declared themselves fit to be deputy president, the number of people who have declared that they're the ones speaking for ODM, the ones who have declared that they're the ones speaking for Luo Nyanza, a basket of votes that was supposed to arrive as a basket is now scattered in directions that cannot quite yet be understood. And so I think the president is having a nightmare.
Well, Stella, I hear you when you say that still waters run deep. We should not misinterpret the silence into like all is well. It's not tranquility. People are angry. And I agree with you. But I would want to think more or rather far away from the personalities, because when you talk about the party leaders and the parties, we know a party is equal to the party leader. We seem to miss the mark, especially in this year where there's a build up to the election of 2027. And I would want to ask ourselves, like, currently we're in an economic decline and no one is talking about that, not even the president. We are in a situation whereby this is the month where we take kids back to school. We have seen placement of the grade 10 kids being placed in a day school 2 counties away, and they're supposed to report. We have these disasters that are coming up. There is a looming, I don't know whether it is hunger or flooding that will subsequently catch up with us. These are the issues that never both. Issues that never go addressed. But we take an issue like the ODM party affair and turn it into a national affair. And ODM is just one of the 90-something political parties that we have in the country. So once the population now is confused on what to focus on, the regime seems to thrive on regenerating and renewing their promises every day. You heard that over New Year's Eve, we are going to have a new airport this year. We are boarding the wheelbarrow on our way to Singapore. But from a governance point of view...
No, the wheelbarrow is flying.
Oh, I stand corrected. Thank you. It has wings. From the governance point of view, this being the year where we need to start consolidating how we want to be governed come next year, what should be our areas of focus? What should we as Kenyans be talking about? Because voter registration, again, is ongoing, but it is not ongoing. Everything is happening, but nothing is moving. In terms of governance, what do we need to do as Kenyans? Because you only have one country, one nation to salvage.
I think you've been sent to make my life difficult this morning.
Welcome.
I will deal with you and I will deal with the audience.
Perpendicularly, yes.
Governance is about systems. Systems to create order in a space that would otherwise be disorderly. Systems are people. If you have the wrong people, irrespective of how strong your systems are, they will not work. And a good example of a nation where we have set up systems, but they refuse to work for us because of people is Kenya. People are the values and the education that you offer them. If the values and the education that you offer do not build the character to be able to run those systems, those systems will consistently crash, irrespective of how effective they are. People have developed all kinds of machinery to do work, but they have to be supervised by human beings at the end of the day. If that human being decides that they will not be there to switch the path that needs to be switched, those things will not move. I'm saying that because I want to clearly say that our focus should be this noise that is being made first. Seek ye first the kingdom of politics, and the rest shall be added unto you. The reason why I'm saying this is because if there are any problems with the schools, if there's any problem with our health sector, if there's a problem with the individual who is the cabinet secretary for health and chief and shy and whatever, it is because someone somewhere allowed him to either be in a campaign team, to fund a campaign enough for him to be qualified as a cabinet secretary, or to bribe his way there, because we've had that could have happened allegedly, or someone voted for this individual who's not delivering for his constituency whatever needs to be delivered. Someone voted for the individual who's brandishing his gun. And someone voted for the one who has never performed anything in the constituency and continues being seen in rallies insulting people. They are also the same people who voted for a candidate, for example, like Babu Owino, who has been on the top of the list of well-performing members of parliament. So I need Kenyans to focus at that place, because I think I've been in this studio before where I said one of our biggest assignments in 2027 is to do a vetting exercise that will go beyond the political party. So why we are focusing on political parties now and the formations is because those formations are the ones that are going to design manifestos. I'm afraid that Dennis mentioned bottoms up, and the fact that we don't know what happened to bottoms up, and the has slide, now we are flying to wherever we are going to with wheelbarrows. And unfortunately, because we don't pay attention to those manifestos that closely, a man is able to develop an economic policy that keeps changing as the years go. And nobody is holding him to account. Not his representatives in parliament, not the people that were elected in part of their parliamentary group.
Not his party.
Not even his party. Not even his cabinet is reminding him that, Mr. President, this is what we committed to. We can't be telling Kenyans about flying on wheelbarrows, you know. The hustlers try to remind him, we were the subject of your campaign, and they get beaten and shot on the foot. Let's not talk about the rest of their bodies, just on the foot. So for me, because you gave a political party an assignment, they told you what is on their manifesto based on short lines. You allowed a robber and their company to come and ask to partner with your company, and they swallowed you and stole everything from you. So we must focus first. What does this company look like? Who are the people who are forming it? If that system, that company has people who will not deliver because you have seen on the record they have not delivered, the mission is to ensure that party does not have representation. Unfortunately, we're at a place where Kenyans are not yet ready to make those decisions. We are still seeing them split. They're saying they're with Jubilee because they like Matiang'i, they're with Reggie DCP because because Murima is coming together. Kenyans have not come to that place where they've understood the assignment. But yesterday I was very pleased with the rider who took me to where? To City Center. The Uber driver told me, Madam, and he didn't know what I do, so he was just telling me, giving me instructions. Our only assignment is 2027, ni tuamke mapema na tutume mtu mmoja nyumbani. Forget about hizo vitu zingine zote. So the only assignment I had was to remind him, hata tukimtuma nyumbani, let us also very carefully select who we are giving the assignment, because in most places when you focus on sending someone home, they prepare a protege who's going to take over after them. But then we must focus on this, and we must not just read the noise at the top, read the noise at the bottom. For example, when you look at this noise that is being made about diehard traitor, and the SG who knows the Shenzis and the whoever's in this party. When you see the noise between the two of them, there are a number of things that are coming up in that conversation. One of them I mentioned at the beginning of this speech, to say campaign financing and how resources are used is a factor, and accountability for the same. Number two, the question of, does the interest of the citizen matter? None of these people are arguing about the state of hospitals, whether or not what they promised citizens is happening or not. None of them are arguing about. They're arguing about how this money was used and whatever. The third thing that I noted, and this is something we must appreciate about politics, I'm trying very hard to split between a politician and a governance specialist. For a governance expert, we'll just be looking at the first things that I've just mentioned. But for a politician, you must look at who this noise is serving. And it just hit me this morning that there's one man who's being mentioned and is not defending himself, the former president. But the announcement here is that, number one, he has capacity to fund campaigns and move things. And it's the kind of money that can shift things. Number two, he's willing to spend that money. Number three, he's willing to spend it even with his enemies for as long as it delivers his interests. Are there Kenyans, voters, the hoi polloi, who would make a decision to vote for an individual who's not from their community, but then invest because this man will serve their interests of getting good health care? Those are decisions that we must make. And I wish Kenyans would be studying the former president to see how he moves to make his decisions. Number three, that he did not spread, rather he did not put all his eggs in one basket. He spread his liability. And how you know he spread his liability is because we are still talking about Patrick Mburu and we are talking about Junet. So we are not sure yet who was handling what. And the chief agent has also spoken and said what he said. Here's the thing. He spread his interests. Now, he's the only one who's coming out of this conversation as Muupe kama pamba. He invested money, someone played with his money, so he did not do anything to affect the elections. So that noise is also serving a purpose. And I dare say, I wish Kenyans would prepare, because that noise is going to deliver another formation very soon. And I wish they understood that formation, because then that formation is going to be a huge factor in how the next election happens. Which is why I'm saying, let us, and we must multitask. Let's focus on the systems. Let's focus on the people. The people should determine whether a vehicle is worthy or not. And the good things that we've seen them in action. And we should not forget the mission that was to send anybody, number one, who last year but one, in June, voted for the finance bill. Anybody who has continued to defend nonsense in this government, and anybody who has mistreated Kenyans to the point that Kenyans could not afford their Christmas last December.
And Stella, that's really where the core of the matter, in my view, would really rest. The kind of choices that are presented to Kenyans in the form of candidates. Because you are an aspirant, so we have thousands of them right now, but there's going to be a point in time when they are cleared to be candidates. How will Kenyans, or how can Kenyans safeguard that the right people, the people that you are saying, anybody who did not vote for the finance bill and is fit for the task, we will give another term. For the people who did not ensure that Kenyans had Christmas, we send them home. And in the midst again of 2-term, 1-term, and we know institutions of governance are there. IEBC needs to do its work, EACC needs to do its work, but we are just coming from by-elections a few weeks ago. And some of the candidates that Kenyans did not want are actually seated in the houses that make these decisions. How can Kenyans take charge of the choices that they are given? Number one. Number two, the choices again the different camps that would emerge, the Gen Zs present a very strong block. But as you spoke about, voting and registration for voters, we are not seeing them really coming up so strongly like we've seen in the past, where they take charge. And last year, but one I think was a very critical moment. They said, we are going to change this country, and they changed it. Do you think that the 8.4 million plus who did not vote in the last election, plus the 6.8 million plus that IEBC are projecting, are able to present a third or even a fourth force?
You have asked many questions, eh?
There are only two.
I kid you not, there are many. Let me start with the first one.
Yeah.
Actually, let me start with the second one, which is how about the Gen Z?
Yeah.
Are they able to show up and show up nicely? I think they have promise. They showed up 2 years ago. We did not expect that kind of energy from them.
Yeah.
It was targeted towards a different assignment from voting, but then they showed up as they should. They have been accused, especially most of last year, for not showing up to register, but then the limitations of that registration process were never processed by anyone, and nobody wanted to talk about them because the mission was to drive the narrative that Gen Z do not want to register to vote. I dare the government to find the resources to do mass voter registration, to take registration to their doorsteps and see if they're not going to come out to register. Because it's also unfair and to demand that they spend 200, 300 Kenya shillings of money they don't have to travel to some place to go and register themselves as voters. So they will show up. How can Kenyans intercept the institutions that continue to fail us and refuse to do the work they should do?
Yeah.
I have asked that question first again so that I remind you what I'm answering as your first question.
Yeah.
And then also to highlight the fact that some of the institutions that we have created are sabotaged by the interests of politicians. And IEBC has been one such culprit. I can confidently say in this room, and I know I'm going to repeat it until the next election because I saw the by-elections, that IEBC is not going to serve Kenyans. For this reason, I would dare say, and I have propped this idea to a different platform, a platform that has membership all over this country. I can't name them here because I truly want them to adopt this idea and take it home and make sure that they spoil the ground completely for the politicians who are not serving us. I think Kenyans must create an electoral college of their own. This is a people's electoral college. What we saw, and I'm glad you alluded to 2 years ago, what we saw with Gen Z is that they would trace information and come and upload it and say, this is the guy who's telling us he wants to be wherever. This is the guy who's eating our money. This is how much he's eating. If they can invest their energy in doing that, and then we make sure that those conversations move from the online space onto the offline space, and our parents also engage in those conversations, it will be very helpful. I'm not deceived that it's going to be an easy assignment to convince our parents, because I happen to be the daughter of a man who is a top delegate in ODM. And we have found ourselves in crossfires ever since Baba joined, or rather broad-based was formed. And so for me, I know that it will take quite a lot to convince our folks. But I think the Gen Z parents are more convinced because we saw how much they supported them. So I'd rather that we start with the Gen Z parents so that we make sure that those ones are removed completely from the old voting style. And then us millennials will have to spend a lot of energy having very critical conversations. The other thing is that the middle class in this country has been resting a lot. And so for me, I think they form a big part of the problem. Because where they should help the voter, especially the voter who doesn't have access to information, to understand who they are voting for, they don't normally come out to do the same. And so for me, we end up having people who voters vote for. And when you sit to the middle class, they will tell you, this guy stole this from this whatever institution, they did this, and for some strange reason, IEBC cleared them, and the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission cleared them. We should not wait for the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission to clear them. The middle class should just take responsibility and ensure that any informal spaces available will be to educate people about what people have done. Has someone killed another politician? Have they assassinated someone? Have they been part of scandals that have been forgotten and they have not made any reparations? Are they unrepentant politicians who have made money from Kenyans and are using the money to control Kenyans? Those are conversations the middle class and majority of the millennial who have been part of an old political system and a transition and a new political system should teach the new voter.
Stella, I hear you speak in terms of fagia water, We must fix this system once and for all. Drain the swamp.
Yes.
Yote yende, right? But I want to be the devil's advocate. And I want to ask the question. As we want to fagia water, even at the advent of Gen Z protests and what that meant for the country, we look at the by-elections that happened, right? And you look at the by-election and it is just a replica of how we have always handled our politics, And one would have hoped that these by-elections would have been an indicator of what is to happen in 2027. And one would say, if that's what we saw, then 2027 won't be any different. So question then is, as we speak about Kenyans draining the swamp and Kenyans making the decision and the middle class not resting anymore and asking the difficult questions, how have we gotten there yet? Are Kenyans angry enough to say, home? Are Kenyans so tired with bad governance that today, if campaigns if politicians come to campaign in their vicinity, they're able to set the agenda? Kenyans setting the agenda for politicians, not the other way around. Because for a very long time, politicians have always set the agenda for Kenyans. Are Kenyans so tired that they are finally ready to take over the political space and say, this is what we want? Or are we also looking at a situation where we'll just go back to the same cycle?
Kenyans are tired. And they're very tired. And I'm going to get you examples right from that by-election. Despite the fact that by-elections in Kenya don't normally attract very many participants, because most people think that a few people can actually sort that matter out for us as long as we tell them who we want. I think Kenyans are tired because, number one, none of the people who tried to manipulate that election got away with it easily. You saw Ruku in wherever he was trying to interfere with the polling station. I think he had to go 2 trips just to get access to the polling station, and the last time he came and got access is because he came with a lot of force. You saw the situation in Malava. That even people undressed an individual who was bribing citizens and voters a day before the elections. And they made sure that this person was sent away from the constituency so that the next day he was nowhere in the vicinity. They managed to do everything that they could to secure the vote. They were only limited by the force from government. The other reason why I'll tell you, Kenyans are actually pissed off and they're acting and they're communicating in a way that the government understands, is the amount of money that was spent in those elections. I don't have the figures at the top of my head, probably Osido would. But here's the thing, the amount of money that was spent to just get Wamudende declared is absurd, especially coming from a constituency that has been quiet and sleepy. That kind of money,
500 million.
Replicating that kind of money in every one of the constituencies in the next election, in 2027 will be impossible. So we know already that Kenyans are presenting an impossibility to government. Now, for the by-election, they could flex and spend money. But when it comes to 2027, where now decisions have to be made, and anybody who must fall will truly be allowed to fall because it's survival for the fittest and the fattest, I think we will see the voice of Kenyans and see it properly. And more of Kenyans will have shown up. The other thing that we must note is that it's what do you call this register, voter register, that was used for that election is the voter register from 2022. Especially because the registration that had been done last year, most of that data had not been properly analyzed and collated in order for it to be included for that by-election. So we can't quite get the answers about the behavior of the new voter from that. But then we can get answers about the behavior of the existing voter. One of the only things that, for me, is a cause for dismay is the fact that a lot of people are very, very disillusioned. They are sad about the situation, and most of them believe that the way you said that if we are behaving around our elections the same way we always do, some people feel like nothing will change. But I think they need to be encouraged. They need to be encouraged that the state wants them to get to that place of disillusionment so that they don't participate in the vote. And again, it's this morning I was thinking about it as I was preparing, and I was saying the state has no loss if you don't show up to vote. As a matter of fact, if you make a decision that you're tired, this system does not work, and you don't show up to vote, you've done them a great favor.
Please repeat that again.
The state does not care if you don't show up to vote. As a matter of fact, if you don't vote, you're doing the state a favor. Especially in a country where in some areas voters show up 99%. Rest assured that your vote will be a top-up for a candidate you would never have voted for if you showed up to vote. So you better show up, use your voter's card, use your registration number so that nobody else can be able to use that to make a decision on your behalf. And I hope Kenyans understand what I mean by using your voter details to make a decision that you would not choose.
Yeah.
Because rigging is actually applied based on those numbers of people who did not show up, but they are available and they're voters. That's what is used by candidates to fill up. A government in Kenya panics when every voter shows up and comes to vote, so that even someone who's viewing without counting will say approximately this number of people showed up in that polling station. So if the votes are less than this, someone is playing games. If the votes are more than this and there are only 2 people, someone is playing games. Showing up is the best assignment that we can do, number one. But number 2 is participating in those community electoral colleges that we have. If anybody says they want to be your MP, who are they? Check if they beat their wife. Check if they provide for their children. If they don't take care of their children, do not vote for those individuals.
Check if they graduated and they're actually engineers.
Check if they are truly qualified for what they claim that they're qualified for. Oh my God, Nairobi. Check. Check and make sure that the person you're voting for truly qualifies to get that position.
Yeah.
Once you're done with the assignment at that electoral college, on that voting day,
Yes.
wake up and show up to vote. Some of the changes we made in this country, we made at a time when we decided that we will wake up and we will show up. 2002 is one of those times that we really celebrate. We showed up, we were there, irrespective of how powerful we believed that our opponent was. We showed up and ensured that we could not allow him to find any way out to rig the vote. And that's an assignment we must do. Are Kenyans ready to do that? Yes. Are they angry enough to do it? They are. Are they angry enough to wait until 2027? I don't think so. Dennis, I say this with conviction. You will see Kenyans this year, then you will understand that they are ready for 2027. Yes.
Wow. And it's true, chapter 6 of the Constitution talks about the character of our leaders. Something that almost all the times we overlook. Tuliambiwa, huyu ni mwizi, we said, huyu mwizi ndiye tunataka. We are told this person has this. And then also I think the judiciary also needs to come out and pronounce itself well on where it stands on matters of politics, because you hear people who have very grievous cases ongoing, but they're still cleared by the EACC, by the IEBC. So the coordination of our organs, instruments that we trust to help us make more viable, credible decisions is one thing. It's something we need to speak to, so that we have all these agencies helping the Kenyan voter to get the best of what they deserve in terms of leadership. But I also hear you, and I agree with you, that the power of showing up ensures peace after the election. 2002 is number 1, and 2013 is the next. Those are the 2 relative electoral cycles where we have had significant peace after the voting. So if we can organize ourselves and agree that this time around, it's not about sending somebody home. It's not about bringing the other person in. It's about the issues that we want addressed, and this is the person who is qualified. If he's stellar for governor or whatever position the person is going for, we match their set skills, their qualifications with that position. If you don't qualify as Dennis, and we love you and we hear you are popular, even the party you're in wants to give you a ticket, we are sorry. Because why is it as Kenyans, Stella? Whenever you're hiring somebody, if you request an Uber and somebody asks you it's late night, and ask you, let's just make this ride offline, you decline. Right? Why is it when you're hiring somebody to help you for whatever task you're paying for, to deliver the goods or services, you're very critical to make sure that you get value for money. But when it comes to voting, we do not care. Actually, we just want somebody to bribe us, and we give them a through pass. At what point must we agree and concur that the lives we are living today, the high cost of living we are experiencing today, is because of the vote we cast in 2022? 70% did not want this president to be a president. 33 voted for Baba, 33 did not show up to vote. And the same was true for Baba. 70% did not want him to be a president. Those who did not vote, and those who voted for the current president. So how do we then mobilize a critical mass so that we have legitimacy of the incoming president in 2027. Because I believe, and I agree with you, we need to forgive water, we need to have a new regime, we need to reset the whole system so we can transform this country. But how do we move the critical mass so that the 50+1 question will not arise? We need a 72%, if not 81%, for the next president. What can we do as Kenyans?
Many questions again.
Indeed.
You men are on a mission. Let me start with the judiciary.
Yeah. Right.
The judiciary does not go to the market to look for litigation.
Right.
You must approach the courts for them to engage in any kind of process. And so we have left that assignment for a very long time to a few people. And this is the season when the other Okia Omtata Okoitis must be born. Individuals who decide that they're going to take up public interest litigation on behalf of their communities and just take action. The beauty of it is that they're there. I mean, you've seen the gentleman who was fighting for the Mara for a very long time, and even when he was shut up, he managed to make enough noise to mobilize people around him. Are we able to get ourselves to a place where we care about the elections enough to engage in public interest litigation to demand that people who have cases, legitimate cases that are known, do not participate in the election? I don't know, and I haven't taken time to study how far this scandal that is linked to Wamudende went with the oxygen and everything. But it would help, for example, if certain individuals actually went and put the EACC to task and demanded that they make a public statement about whether this man is clean or not, that someone would have gone to court and pushed for this to happen if the EACC refused to act. Because we did not do that, they allowed the conversation to continue, because in Kenya you can talk about someone being corrupt, but you cannot stop them from being on the ballot for as long as they have been cleared. So how you tie IEBC and EACC's hands is by making sure that you can provide incontrovertible evidence that then would confirm that this person is unfit to hold office. Sometimes it's hard to come by that kind of evidence, especially because of the secretive nature of tenders and all those things.
Right.
And so it may require a lot more investigation, and I think there are agencies that can support that work. But I don't want to talk about that high level of work. I want to talk about what can be done in the community without reaching out to people and getting a lot of money. And that which must be done is what I first said, a citizens' electoral college, where you qualify people before they get onto the ballot, so that even if they're put on the ballot and you have decided their education is not enough, then even if they're on the ballot, you're telling everyone you're not voting for this guy because his education is useless. You're telling people this man has eaten our money, he has used it to buy apartments or to do whatever, and we are not going to allow him to engage. This man has killed us, and so he should not be on the ballot paper. That even if his name finds itself on the ballot paper, then we are not supposed to be voting for them. We have a problem when a human being has killed Kenyans, and yet when they appear on the ballot paper, we continue to vote for them. We have a problem. Are we able to sit and educate ourselves? For me, our time has never come like this one, when Kenyans have gone through suffering together, because it has always been the people who didn't vote for the government. This president has ensured that every Kenyan has known suffering. Every single Kenyan, even the ones who are around him, I can tell there's something wrong. They don't look as happy as they looked at the beginning. And so for me, that distress that Kenyans are feeling, I spoke specifically about last year's Christmas, because we saw the change in behavior of Kenyans, and it was extreme. So I believe by now everyone has felt the pain of this. If this pain does not drive us to vote correctly in 2027, then we deserve the idiots or the washenzi that we bring into power. We deserve them. So Kenyans must think really hard about what they want to do with 2027 after experiencing what they have experienced. If they don't know how their leader, how their representative is contributing to their problems, this is the time to ask questions. There's a couple of months, 16 or something, not 16, maybe 18 left, where they can actually ask questions. Can I understand why this road is not functioning well? I know, for example, in my constituency, there's a road that was not constructed for a very long time, and people kept on hearing the MPs coming in and promising they'll build that road, only to discover that it was not part of their job to build that road. And the road was left, and it was being used as a campaign tool. So if you don't know, you'll be thinking that this person is promising you things they can deliver, and then when they come in, they don't have money to build that road. Are we able to ask those questions? I think the assignment is in this electoral college. How do we get everyone to vote? First of all, to come out and vote wisely. I must say those conversations must happen outside those institutions. If IEBC approves an individual who is not fit, let it be known to them that this is the last time we will tolerate that rubbish from them. We will not throw stones. We will not go and protest outside their offices. We will just make sure that they know these kinds of characters. Even if you force them on the ballot, we will not vote for them.
I mean, Stella, let me ask, we'll ask 2 questions because I see we're running short of time. Osido.
I just wanted to ask this question, Stella, because you spoke about failing to vote is actually the same as voting the person that you do not want. And while in the village, one thing that I had to really grapple with was the absence of Baba. And most Luos, now the community bloc would say, we normally wake up to go and vote for Baba. Baba Kura. Now, Baba is not there. Why should I wake up? What would be your message to this kind of people, particularly in the context of ensuring that you show up and you vote?
Yeah. Before you go, I think you should have responded to them. You said that one was the Gochone Baba, one was the Chamungima this time.
Because it's one difficult step. Because I foresee a scenario where it will affect particularly the turnout. And Stella is right to probably insinuate that the imagination that the president would be desiring to harvest votes from Nyanza and the Greater Western, I think is going to be one of those challenges, even insofar as the turnout is concerned.
Yeah.
So it's a conversation that I keep, struggling with, and it's a long haul, because they're saying we don't have even to get our ID cards. It's okay because even without an ID, no jobs. You have the ID, no jobs. What is at stake, really, particularly politically speaking?
I don't think it's an accident that Luo Nyanza is in the situation it finds itself in. And that's because most of the political class is afraid of a unified rebellion from Luo Nyanza. And they are paying good money to Luo Nyanza politicians to actually ensure that those cracks remain and remain until 2027. For me, again, this thing I'm saying of voters educating themselves amongst themselves is extremely important, and conspiring amongst themselves. Because now the decision has been made that if there's a Luo who is not going to vote for the current president, then they should not show up at the polling station, so that space of theirs can be used to announce something different. And a decision has been made that those who are coming out to vote for Baba have no business. And this one has been made by people who are not informed. They're not informed, but unfortunately, and I like that you're telling Dennis that this is a very difficult scenario, because you're dealing with people who are used to suffering. Luos have suffered beyond this regime. So for them, another 5 years of suffering may not be a difficult thing for them to do, And so telling them that we have suffered and you need to vote differently is not loading. So for me, when we start speaking about life and the value of life and dignity, I think we'll be able to reach out to Luos. IBC, Ministry of State Department responsible for justice, and all the agencies that are going to be doing civic education will not come and tell you about that. Those, again, are conversations that must happen in the Citizens Electoral College, where they sit down and tell each other, what kind of life do we want to live? If you ask me, I can bet you $1 million that the Luopians in this country are the people who aspire for the highest level of quality life. So if you have a president who's subjecting you to squalor, I think that's why we should keep the conversation. Because telling them we have suffered, suffering they have seen. As a matter of fact, they are so used to hustling to be able to show off even that Mercedes-Benz. They really will not be moved by suffering. So we must find another conversation to have with them. We must also ensure that every single voter understands numbers. That if they don't show up, that vote will still be counted, and it will be counted for someone they are not ready for.
And I think we just conclude the conversation with a few comments here. And my prince is saying, young people must come out to register, vie and vote. Your future is being determined by retirees who have never had the interest of the country they have worked for. And Edwinson is saying, problem with Kenya is that the supposed alternative candidate are lagging behind in polls. polls. And Kenyans are great in talk and very poor in action. We must walk the talk. And someone is saying, Obara Omondi, we in Luo Nyanza should not lose hope. Baba, rest in peace. He did his part. If we don't vote wisely, we are doomed. I think it's a collective call that we all must play our part if we must see the change that we need. It is through these such of conversations that we get to change the country. Stella Gara, governance expert. Asante sana. Happy New Year. And like we've said, 2027, Wadi Chamango, Gema. Tunaenda kukula uzima in 2027.
Eat life.
It's life.
At exactly 9 a.m. Good morning.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
Ushindi with new enzyme technology tackles even the toughest things. Ushindi, powerful stain removal, because legends deserve a winning clean.
That's the clean of legends.